Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And we do have a lot of interesting things happening across the game industry right now. Definitely in regards to PlayStation, they have been a little bit more in the news this week, which is really nice to see because oftentimes they are quiet. But here this week, we did get the PlayStation VR 2, a new game, and it looks like they might have locked down a major franchise. I've said in the past that this generation is going to be extremely competitive, and you're really starting to see that now if this does indeed turn out to be true. So we're going to go over that one today. And then also, Xbox emulation just got even better. It's pretty well known that the Xbox Series has been a great console to emulate other platforms, and, well, things have gotten a little bit better since we had last heard about this, so we will go over that one today as well. To start today off, though, we do actually have a pretty big topic to talk about here because I know a lot of you all are going to be really excited about this one, and that is the possibility that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 is not only in development. I mean, we've heard teases about this already, but now it's actually looking like this game will be revealed before E3 of this year. This is according to the GamesBeat reporter Jeff Grubb, which we have talked a lot about on this channel, as he has leaked out a lot of information in the last couple years, a lot of which has turned out to be pretty accurate. And he does say here that EA might actually announce Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 before E3, and he does specifically point to May. Now, we'll kind of see about all of that, but he does say expect to hear about the game in a significant way before E3, and that they are planning to release this game in 2022, though it might be pushed back to 2023. As we all kind of know, when it comes to release dates anymore, they're all kind of up in the air, so nothing is really set in stone as of this moment. But there you go. If you did like Jedi Fallen Order, it does sound like the sequel is well on its way, and possibly earlier than what I think many of us expected. I certainly wasn't expecting the possibility of it releasing in 2022. I mean, it still might not, but yeah, that is pretty exciting. I mean, anytime that we get a Respawn Entertainment game, I'm always going to be excited about that because they are just such a phenomenal studio. Titanfall 1 and 2 was absolutely excellent. Of course, Jedi Fallen Order was a really good single-player experience. And then you have Apex Legends. I'm not really a big fan of that game, but that's more because I don't really like Battle Royale style of games, but it's still a good game nonetheless. So I do really trust Respawn Entertainment, and I'll be really excited to see what they can do here with a sequel for Jedi Fallen Order 2. Of course, though, just keep in mind that this is only a rumor for the time being, and nothing has been confirmed as of yet. Next up here, we do have a bit of a strange and possibly frustrating story, depending on who you ask. So yesterday, we did talk about Ghost of Tsushima, which has now sold 8 million copies worldwide, which is absolutely fantastic, and Sony was rightfully praising Ghost of Tsushima for this, and that they even announced a Ghost of Tsushima movie. So Sony seems to be pretty happy about all this, and why shouldn't they be? This is absolutely fantastic for a new IP. However, there's a little bit more to the story because Jeff Ross, the games director for Days Gone, which is actually yet another PlayStation first-party exclusive, well, they were treated completely different than what Ghost of Tsushima and Sucker Punch was, even though they actually had a similar amount of success, if not even better, because check this out. Jeff Ross stated this over on Twitter. At the time I left Sony, Days Gone had been out for a year and a half and a month and sold over 8 million copies. It's since gone on to sell more and then a million plus on Steam. Local studio management always made us feel like it was a big disappointment. So what's interesting here is that Days Gone actually had a lot of success and a similar amount of success to Ghost of Tsushima, but, well, the thing is that this actually opens a bit of a controversy that we talked about a lot earlier in the year, or actually in 2021, got to keep that in mind. But back in 2021, there was a big report going around that Days Gone was denied a sequel, and a lot of fans were very, very upset about this because it seems like there was a lot of enjoyment for this game overall within the community, and, well, it just doesn't look like Sony is going to give this game another chance. And now you're seeing here, this is definitely not because of how many units the game sold, but the big difference here between Ghost of Tsushima and Days Gone is critical reception. On one side, you have Ghost of Tsushima, which when it released on the PlayStation 4, it had an 83 overall score on Metacritic. And then meanwhile, you have Days Gone, which when it released, it had a 71 overall score on Metacritic. So that right there is the big difference between the two games, and there was already some hints out there that Sony does very much care about critical reception, but I think that this right here does further prove that is exactly the case. They do absolutely seem to care, but what I found to be really interesting about this is that Sean Layden, the former PlayStation boss, also responded to this tweet by saying, "Congratulations, always thought it was an ambitious and impressive title, The Hordes. It was a real privilege to be there on launch day, will not forget." And then a fan did ask, so why'd you turn down their pitch for a sequel? And then Jeff Ross responded, "Sean didn't kill it. He was our biggest advocate." So I think you can kind of read between the lines there and who to blame, but it does very much look like if Sean Layden was still there, which I think did a fantastic job with the PlayStation 4, but if he was still there, more than likely you probably would have gotten a Days Gone sequel, regardless of what the critical reception for that game was. I guess it is what it is. Maybe we won't get a Days Gone sequel, but at the same time, I'm still very much looking forward to Sony Ben's next game, which will be a new IP. Now, speaking of PlayStation, they might have locked down a major franchise as a PlayStation 5 exclusive throughout the entire generation. Now, keep in mind that all of this is just a rumor for the time being, so take everything that you're about to hear with a grain of salt. But this is coming from a Video Game Chronicles journalist, which VGC is a very reputable website which has proven time and time again that they do have sources across the industry. And that right there is why this specific rumor is being taken serious as of this moment. But over on Recetera, he had some very interesting things to say. The whole thing kind of started off with him saying, "It's interesting to see Ubisoft side with Xbox more and more this generation, while Square is firmly in Sony's camp, even beyond what's publicly known. This is a cool move, but I wonder what price we'll be looking at for Ultimate Plus, Ubi. This is turning into a very exciting gen." And right there, the main thing that a lot of people are focusing on is where he says Square is firmly in Sony's camp even beyond what's publicly known. Now, a lot of people seem to be asking him about this specific line here, as he does seem to be teasing something, and he simply said, "You won't be waiting long." But it does get even more interesting than that, because later on he said this: "Most of Square stuff will end up on Xbox, but I wouldn't hold out hope for Final Fantasy unless something changes. Sony wants PlayStation to be the home of Final Fantasy this generation. Final Fantasy VII was supposed to be on Xbox by now, but here we are." And that is a huge thing to drop. Based off what he's saying here, it very much sounds like Sony might have possibly struck a deal with Square Enix to lock down Final Fantasy, all of the mainline games at the very least, as exclusive PlayStation 5 games. Or at the very least, they might be trying to strike a deal. Now, he does note that Square Enix wants to release their games on PC as well, so if you do play on PC, you don't have to worry about anything like that. This will more affect Xbox fans that want Final Fantasy, because the last couple generations, or ever since Final Fantasy 13, these games have appeared on Xbox as well as PlayStation, outside of Final Fantasy 14 and then Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Though with 7 Remake, that was always well known to be a timed exclusive, but it has been a little strange that it hasn't released on Xbox. But if this does turn out to be true, well, it is starting to make sense on why maybe we haven't heard anything about that Xbox version. Definitely unfortunate for Xbox fans that have been waiting on that game. Again, though, nothing's really confirmed just yet, but he does say that we won't have to wait too long, so maybe we will get some information about this in the coming months. We'll kind of see about all of that, but if this does turn out to be true, this is really big. Final Fantasy is a massive franchise, and I know that there's always going to be a controversy when it comes to timed exclusives, especially when it's a big franchise like this, but ever since Jim Ryan has taken over PlayStation, this has been a staple within his business strategies, and more than likely it's probably because it's working. Final Fantasy VII Remake sold very well, and now looks like he's going to double down on the Final Fantasy franchise if this turns out to be true. I think what we're seeing here, though, is that this generation in specific, between the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, this is going to be an incredibly competitive generation. Both of them are acquiring studios left and right. I mean, Xbox acquired Bethesda, that was massive. And here recently, PlayStation has been acquiring studios, they've been signing contracts with third-party developers, and now we also have the possibility that maybe they have locked down a major franchise in Final Fantasy. By the looks of things, it's just going to be a really competitive generation. Moving on though, we do also have some Xbox news to go over as well, which actually started out as a bit of a strange story. So a couple of days ago, there was some reports going around that Xbox was deactivating developer mode for Xbox Series consoles that weren't actually using it to develop apps. This actually is in the terms of service, which of course most people don't read that anyways, but it is actually in the terms of service, so they could possibly do something like that if they wanted. But in this situation, Xbox's Jason Ronald later on did confirm that they have no plans to remove or disable developer mode on Xbox consoles, and that they continue to believe in and support a healthy independent app and game development community on Xbox. He then continued on to say that they are looking to re-enable developer mode for those Xbox consoles that were mistakenly disabled. So if this did happen to you, it does look like that they are trying to fix the situation. The whole thing about this though is that the reason that a lot of fans have developer mode enabled on their Xbox, which you do have to pay $20 to enable developer mode, but the reason that a lot of people do this is because the Xbox Series is a fantastic emulation console, and in developer mode you can actually install emulation applications such as RetroArch and DuckStation. This was discovered last year, and ever since then, the Xbox Series has been a fantastic way to emulate other consoles. And actually with the Xbox Series S, I've seen a lot of people actually just go out and buy that console simply to emulate older consoles, whether that be the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, or the Super Nintendo, or whatever. You can do all that on the Xbox Series S. So that was a huge reason that a lot of fans would pay that $20 for developer mode so they can then emulate other consoles. But I guess actually things have gotten a lot easier since then, because now actually you can emulate all of these consoles without using developer mode at all. Yeah, I guess a lot of people started to realize this just yesterday, but I guess you no longer have to buy developer mode to do this. You can actually do it in retail mode by simply going over to a specific website on your Xbox and then clicking on the install button. It's as simple as that. So emulation just got a lot easier on the Xbox Series. Now, if you are interested in doing this, I will actually leave a link in the description below to a video that explains how you can do this. At the time that video was made, you actually had to be whitelisted, but that's actually no longer the case. So just go to that video, then check the description and click on the link there, and you can simply install those on your Xbox. That video, though, will, however, be very helpful in setting up an emulator such as RetroArch. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, with the PlayStation VR 2 specs and features now revealed, are you interested in getting it yourself? It does seem like this is going to be a pretty impressive device based off of the specs and features. I think that the features in specific are actually quite exciting for the PlayStation VR 2. Foveated rendering and haptic feedback are the ones that I'm really interested in personally, but I wanted to know if this was enough for you all to be interested in PlayStation VR 2. And as you can see here, 29% of you did say yes for the right price, which actually I think is pretty good for a niche product such as virtual reality, but 60% of you did say no. And going through the comments, it does seem like that there's two concerns with the PlayStation VR 2. One being the price. They do have to get the price right. But then the other one is the lack of wireless. Several of you all did mention being disappointed in the lack of wireless for PlayStation VR 2. There was a patent that surfaced online that did showcase that maybe this was going to be wireless. I mean, we knew based off of what Jim Ryan said that there was going to be a singular wire that connected to the PlayStation 5. We've known that for a while now, but there was still a hope that maybe you could disconnect that and play certain games in wireless mode, similar to what you see with the Oculus Quest 2. The Oculus Quest 2 is a standalone device, but if you want to play some PC VR games, you can actually connect it to your PC. That is a nice little feature, and I think that there was some hope that maybe PlayStation would do something similar here. It appears that's not going to be the case, though, and I do understand y'all's disappointment when it comes to that. Wireless is a nice feature to have. I do have the PlayStation VR headset. I also have the Oculus Rift S, and I have the Oculus Quest 2, and being able to play games wirelessly without that cable hanging over your shoulder and back, it does make a difference. Regardless, though, I think for myself, because I do have several other VR headsets, what it all boils down for me is its games. If PlayStation can make good exclusive games for the PlayStation VR 2, that's where I'm going to be interested. I've said this before, but PlayStation didn't really get enough credit for this last generation, but they made some really good VR titles, including Blood and Truth, as well as Astrobot. These are excellent games. I'm not just saying VR games, these are just excellent games, period. And I do think that for a lot of people who haven't tried VR, there is that assumption that all VR games are just tech demos, but that's really not the case anymore. There's some really good VR games out there now, including Half-Life Alyx, there's Asgard's Wrath, Boneworks, Lone Echo, Stormland, and all of these are big AAA experiences and quite good ones at that. So that's what I want to see from Sony, make some good VR games. They do have Firesprite and they do have Insomniac, both of which can make some really good VR games as we've seen previously, and Firesprite is working on that new Horizon VR title, so we'll kind of see how that one works out, and then hopefully we will get another Astro Bot game for PlayStation VR 2. That one right there would probably immediately sell me on PlayStation VR 2. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.